Hi everyone, and thank you for tuning into this Sprintax YouTube video, having your YouTube questions answered. My name is Anna Fitzpatrick and I'm an account manager here at Sprintax. And the aim of today's session is to hopefully give you answers to a lot of the YouTube questions that we've received on our recent YouTube videos to help get you through the remaining weeks of this tax filing season. As always, because it is tax that we're talking about, we generally have to start off with some type of a disclaimer. And this video is aiming to give you a general understanding of tax as it applies to non-resident international students, scholars, and professionals in the US. And as such, it's for information purposes only, and each individual, it's important to keep in mind, has their own unique tax position and is responsible for their own tax determination and tax compliance. But let's jump in and see what are some of the common questions that we've been asked on our recent YouTube videos. The first comes from our YouTube video talking around step 3, let's talk money. And it says that their federal income is higher than their state income, and it's asking me to give a reason why, but how is this done? So there could be a couple of reasons for this. The first might be that you have income reported under a tax treaty. So for example, if you were working on campus or you were receiving wages and you were tax treaty eligible, if you claimed that tax treaty, the tax treaty portion of your income would be reported on a 1042-S, while anything outside of your tax treaty would be reported on a W-2. So where that's the case, it would usually be income code 20 in box 1. But if you don't have a 1042-S and your federal wages are still less than your state wages and you're not too sure why, it would be best to contact your payer of your income, so whether that's your employer, your school, or your institution, to ask them if you should have another income document, or if not, why or what is the cause for the difference. If the reason is not because you are tax treaty eligible, then you could select other exempt income and describe the exact reason for the difference. So if it's not because you have another 1042-S or it's not because you have another W-2, you will need to find out off your employer, your school, or your institution what is the exact reason, and then outline it in the description on this step. The next question is another one from our video around Let's Talk Money, and it's around cryptocurrency. So why is there a cryptocurrency tab when I don't have a cryptocurrency transaction? So this comes from your answer to a question in step 2, getting to know you, which asks you at any time during 2023, did you receive as a reward, sell, exchange, gift, or otherwise dispose of any digital asset or a financial interest in a digital asset? So if you say yes to this, when you get to step 3, let's talk money, then we will ask you about crypto. So if this is answered incorrectly, and you didn't have crypto, I'd recommend going back to this step and adjusting the question accordingly. Next question is a J1 specific one, which came from our YouTube video, our J1 tax workshop. And it's from an individual saying that if I'm a J1 student who travels with the summer work travel program, what should I complete on college details? So if you have a J1 work travel visa and you've outlined such in your Sprintax residency step, you should not have access to step 5. If you do, it's likely there's a mistake somewhere on step 1 and you may have outlined the incorrect visa type. So I'd recommend going back to step 1 and seeing what you entered as your visa type. If you are a J1 work travel, it's important to make sure that you haven't selected J1 student, for example, and you should adjust your visa type accordingly. And if you're a J1 work travel, you shouldn't see anything related to college details or step 5. The next question is another one from a J1 video that we have, non-resident US tax overview for J1 participants. And it states, I worked in California from December 2022 to March 2023, and I'm on my second work and travel J1 visa from December 2023 to March 2024. My W-2 only has the year 2023. What can I do? So if you worked and earned any income during that month in 2022, you should have received a 2022 W-2, which should have been reported on your 2022 tax return this time last year. If you forgot to file for 2022, apologies, you can catch up and backfile now, and we would recommend that you do so as soon as you can. And if you do need help with that, on Sprintax, when you log in, the first screen you see is the list of tax years. You can select the 2022 tax year, answer the questionnaire, and then we'll prepare your 2022 tax returns if you do need to catch up and backfile. Then you'll report your 2023 W-2 on your 2023 tax return, which we're filing right now, which would be due by April 15th, 2024. Then when you are filing this time next year, you should have a 2024 W-2 for any income that you earned in 2024, and that will be reported on your 2024 tax return. The next question is coming from our How to E-File Your US Non-Resident Federal Tax Return with Sprintax video, and it states, the IRS did not accept the electronic filing of my tax return. Unfortunately, this can happen. If your e-filed return is not accepted, you will need to print, sign, and mail your federal return to the IRS. And when you complete your returns on Sprintax, you will get a federal tax pack, which you can download. It will have all of your completed tax forms, as well as an instruction sheet outlining to print, where to sign, where to send them to, what to include to make sure that you are filing correctly. So if it is rejected, you will need to mail your federal return. The next question is relating to step 6, living in the US, and it states, I do not understand why the exit date is 1 day before the entry date. And this is because the date you enter and the date you leave is considered presence or time spent in the US. So for example, if someone entered the US on the 1st of the 5th, 2023 and left on the 30th of the 9th, 2023, both dates would be considered as time spent in the US. Another question from e-filing, which comes from our step 7, e-file your federal tax return with Sprintax video. Should I mail both federal and state documents to the IRS? Firstly, on the state side, these returns will always need to be mailed. We don't currently offer any state e-filing options on Sprintax. So if you have a state tax return, you'll need to follow the instructions in your state tax pack, which will outline to print, sign, and mail to the address provided in the tax pack. On the federal side, it will depend on your circumstances. So if you are eligible to e-file your federal return and you do that and your e-filed return is accepted, you will not need to mail your federal return. But if your e-filed federal return is rejected, you will need to mail it. Or if you're not eligible for e-filing in the first place, you will need to mail your federal tax return. But again, you will get a tax pack with detailed instructions on next steps, what to do, where to send them to make sure that you are filing correctly. The next question is coming from step 2, getting to know you, and it's around OPT. So if right now I'm in OPT, am I a full-time student or a degree candidate? I already graduated. So if you're under an OPT, but you're an F1 visa holder, you've already completed your program in the US and you're now working full-time. And as such, if you've already graduated, you would no longer be a full-time student or a degree candidate. Next question is another one from step 6, living in the US. And this individual came in August 2022, but for 2023, went back to their home country in May of 2023 and came back again in August 2023. Now they're confused with how they should proceed this year. So firstly, if you were present at any point in 2022 as a non-resident under an F, J, M or Q visa holder, you would need to file Form 8843 at a minimum. But if you also had any income in 2022, whatever that income comes from, if it's US sourced income, it's generally going to trigger a federal filing requirement, which would mean you'd need to file Form 1040 NR as a non-resident, and then you may need to file state depending on the state and depending on your circumstances. Again, with the with back filing, if you didn't file for 2022, you can catch up and back file now, and we'd recommend that you do so as soon as you can, and Sprintax can help with that. And then the same applies for 2023. If you were present in the US in 2023 as an FJM or Q visa holder as a non-resident for tax purposes, you'll need to do Form 8843 at a minimum. But if you also had income, you'll need to file a federal tax return. Next question relates to another one of our J1 videos, the non-resident US tax overview for J1 participants, and it's around how to receive your refund. So I worked in the US during the summer of 2023, and this will be my first time filing my US tax return. So I was wondering, how will I receive my refund, and if it's necessary for me to have a US bank account for it? So there's really three ways or three options for you to receive your refund. The easiest will definitely be to transfer to a US bank account, and it must be your own US bank account, and it must be available for the next 12 months at a minimum. You can also receive a check by mail, so make sure that your mailing address is correct, which is on step 2, getting to know you, your address on Sprintax. Or you can credit it towards next year's tax. So for example, you could leave it as a credit towards next year's refund if you have such, or if you had an amount that would owed next year, it would be balanced against that. If you've gone home to your home country, for example, the IRS will not issue a refund into a foreign bank account. So if you did need to set up a temporary US bank account, you can do so through Wise, and Sprintax will give you options for that. But with that said, I'd like to thank everyone for tuning into this YouTube video. I hope we got to many of your questions that have been asked on our YouTube channel this tax season. If you still have questions when you're going through the Sprintax system, please feel free to reach out to our live chat. They're available 24/7 during tax filing season, and they'd be happy to assist with your queries. But again, thank you so much for everyone for tuning in, and best of luck with the rest of your tax filing obligations this tax season. And don't forget to file by the April 15th deadline of 2024 for the 2023 tax filing season.